All right, diving into something pretty important today. The rights and privileges of persons with disability right here in the Philippines.
Definitely important.
We're going to be going deep on Republic Act Now 9442.
Yeah, RA 9442.
Which you might know as the one that amends the Magna Carta for persons with disability.
Right.
But we're not just skimming the surface here.
No way.
We're trying to really unpack what this law means, for you listening.
Exactly, like practically speaking.
What's so interesting about RA 9442 is how it approaches things.
It's about empowerment,
It's not just about, handing out assistance.
It's about creating a society where persons with disabilities are really integrated.
Have the same opportunities.
Exactly.
As everyone else.
And that's really clear in how RA 9442 defines persons with disability, right?
How so?
It uses that same definition from RA 7277.
Which is?
The Magna Carta for disabled persons.
Okay.
Which actually is surprisingly broad.
Oh.
Yeah, broader than you might think, and that's really significant.
So who does this law actually cover then?
So it recognizes that disability, it isn't always immediately obvious, right?
Right. Some disabilities are not visible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the law covers, of course, individuals with what we call an actual impairment.
Makes sense.
But it also covers those with a record of impairment.
Oh, interesting.
And get this, even those who are regarded as having an impairment, even if they haven't been officially diagnosed. You know what I mean?
Wow. So even if someone is just perceived as having a disability.
Exactly. It highlights how much social perception can be a barrier,
Yeah.
And RA 9442 is trying to address that head on.
I see.
Imagine, for instance, you're trying to get a job, right?
Yeah, of course.
And you're denied that job because of assumptions about an impairment you don't even have.
That happens.
Happens all the time. This law is saying, no way, that's not okay.
That's huge to protect people from that kind of discrimination just based on, nothing really. And speaking of practical stuff, RA 9442 has all those discounts, right?
Oh, yeah, the 20% discounts, those are big.
Those are a big deal for a lot of people.
It makes a difference, for sure.
Yeah, saving money. You know how it is.
It all adds up, right?
Okay.
And it applies to a bunch of services, which makes everyday life, hopefully, a little easier.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's say you're planning a vacation.
Nice.
You're entitled to a 20% discount on hotels and lodging under RA 9442.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That counts as lodging, though.
We're talking touristins, those little roadside motels you see on road trips.
Oh,
even apartels.
Okay, so a pretty wide range then.
Yeah, they tried to cover a lot of bases. And get this, it also covers massage parlors and sauna baths.
Wait, seriously? Discounts on massages. I love it.
It's about making those little things accessible,
A little bit of luxury.
Exactly.
I like it.
And it doesn't stop there.
There's more.
Imagine you're heading out to eat with your friends.
Always a good time.
Maybe trying that new place you've heard about, you get that 20% off your meal.
Right there on the spot.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's those everyday things, too.
Absolutely. It's not just big purchases.
What about, those recreational places?
Like what?
Like if I wanted to go to a bowling alley or something.
Yeah, totally.
Or like an art workshop downtown, something fun.
RA 9442 wants to make sure that persons with disabilities can do all these fun things everyone else does, without it costing an arm and a leg.
Yeah, makes sense.
So swimming pools, bowling alleys, all the sports facilities, concert halls, amusement parks, all that is included.
Wow, okay. 20% off all that. That's amazing.
That's the goal.
Sounds like they really thought of everything to make life more, I don't know.
More fun.
More fun, more affordable, all of that.
For sure.
But what about, the serious stuff?
What do you mean?
Like healthcare.
Oh, right.
Healthcare can be so expensive. Does RA 9442, does it do anything about that?
It does. And it's actually one of the most impactful parts of the law, in my opinion.
Really? What does it do?
It gives you a discount on medicine.
On medicine?
Both prescription and over-the-counter.
Oh, wow. That's a big deal.
Big help for a lot of folks.
Especially these days, everyone I know, medicine costs are just, ugh.
It's on everyone's mind.
So wait, just to be clear, no matter what I need at the pharmacy, I get a discount.
Pretty much, yeah. Whether it's, a routine prescription you get filled every month or something you need right away, that 20% discount is there to help.
Wow. And that's just for the medicine itself.
Well, it gets even better.
Better than 20% off all medicine.
This discount also applies to government and private healthcare facilities.
Okay, so we're talking doctor's appointments, the whole 9 yards.
Yes, consultations, lab tests, even those imaging scams that can really set you back, it's all covered.
Whoa, that's amazing.
It's a statement, you know? Healthcare should be a right, not something you can only access if you have a ton of money.
I like that. So I'm making sure everyone can take care of themselves.
Exactly. RA 9442 gets that.
It's amazing how much RA 9442 covers.
Right.
Like it's really thinking about all the different areas of life.
It's practical.
Speaking of practical, what about getting around?
Transportation.
Yeah, transportation costs, because those can really add up.
For sure, for sure. RA 9442 actually addresses a bunch of different transportation options, which I think really shows they were trying to make this useful for people, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are we talking about here? Like buses, trains?
All of that. Let's say you want to visit family in a different province, or maybe you're finally taking that trip to see another island.
Nice.
RA 9442 says you get a 20% discount on domestic air and sea travel.
Oh, wow. Domestic, so not just within my own island.
Nope, across the Philippines.
That's fantastic, opening up travel like that.
Exactly.
I do have one question, though.
Shoot.
What about, you know how sometimes airlines or ferries have those promo fares?
Oh yeah, the super cheap ones.
Yeah, like what happens then? Does the 20% still apply?
That's where it gets smart. The law says the 20% discount doesn't apply if the promo fare is already a better deal.
Oh, that makes sense. So you're always getting the best possible price.
Exactly. No one's trying to cheat you out of a discount or anything.
Okay, I like that. So that's air and sea travel. What about if I'm like taking the bus every day?
For your daily commute.
Yeah, those fares can add up too.
Absolutely, especially with how prices are these days. RA 9442 includes a 20% discount on bus fares, regular and air-conditioned.
Every little bit helps. Okay, what about trains? I know the Philippines is building a lot more train lines.
Yeah, they're trying to expand the railway system, and that's all covered too. That 20% discount applies to, let's see, the LRT, the MRT, the PNR, even those new lines that are still being built.
Wow, so they're thinking ahead.
Trying to.
That's great. Now I got to ask about toll fees. Those things can be brutal.
Tell me about it. So RA 9442 does address those. Persons with disabilities can get a 20% discount on toll fees.
Okay, that's good to know. For any toll road.
For skyways and expressways, yeah.
Oh, okay. Any catches I should know about?
Just one little detail.
What's that?
The discount only applies if the person with the disability owns the vehicle.
Ah, so I can't, like, lend my car to my neighbor and have them get the discount.
Nope, that's not the intention. It's meant to be for the person with the disability to help them get around.
Makes sense. Keeps things fair.
Exactly.
We've covered so much healthcare, transportation, those fun activities, even vacations.
It's a lot.
But what about, like, planning for the future?
How do you mean?
Education, right?
Oh, right.
That could be a huge expense for families. Does RA 9442, does it do anything about education costs?
It does. It's a big focus of the law, actually.
Really?
RA 9442 is really all about lifelong learning and development, you know? It wants everyone to have the chance to learn and grow.
That's great, but that can be expensive, right? So what does it actually do?
Well, it includes what they call educational assistance.
Okay, what's that?
It's actually a lot of things.
Like what?
We're talking scholarships, grants, financial aid if you qualify, help with buying books and school supplies, even uniform allowances.
Wow, they really thought of everything.
The goal is to remove as many financial barriers as possible so that someone can pursue their education.
That's amazing. So this educational assistance, it's not just for, like, college, right?
No, all levels. We're talking primary school all the way through to, like, vocational training after you graduate.
That's really incredible. They really are trying to support people at every stage of life.
That's the idea.
Okay, I have another question about this whole life stage thing.
Yeah, what's that?
What about retirement?
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, once someone is retired, do they still get any of these benefits?
They do. RA 9442 is clear that retirees with disabilities keep getting the benefits they're entitled to.
So they still get the discounts, all of that.
Exactly. Those needs don't just disappear because someone retires. Plus, there's a provision for those benefits to be reviewed regularly.
Reviewed. What does that mean?
Basically, they want to make sure that the amount of support retirees are getting is still enough, especially with the cost of living always changing, you know.
Oh, that's really smart.
It's about making sure people are taken care of.
Makes a huge difference knowing you're secure, especially later in life.
For sure.
Now, I know we talked a little bit before about caregivers, and it made me realize being a caregiver, that's a lot of responsibility.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge responsibility, no doubt.
So does RA 9442 like do anything to acknowledge that, to maybe help caregivers out?
It does, and this is something that's often overlooked, but RA 9442 directly addresses it. It understands that caregivers are crucial for persons with disabilities to live full lives, and it knows that often means the caregiver has to make sacrifices, including financially.
Right, like it's not just about the time and energy it takes.
Exactly. It's a whole financial reality, too.
So what does it do? What kind of support does it offer?
One of the big ones is tax incentives for people taking care of persons with disabilities.
Oh, tax breaks. That's helpful.
Huge help. Essentially, the law sees caring for a person with a disability as similar to having a dependent, at least when it comes to taxes.
Okay, but I'll be honest, taxes are kind of confusing.
They can be, yeah.
So what does that actually mean for someone who is a caregiver? Like, what do they need to know?
Basically, depending on their situation, are they single, married, a solo parent, even a grandparent raising a grandchild with a disability. Depending on all that, they might qualify for certain tax breaks or exemptions.
Okay, so it's about giving them some financial relief, acknowledging that they're taking on a lot.
Exactly. Recognizing that it's a shared responsibility, to support persons with disabilities.
I like that. It takes a village and all that.
Something like that.
We've talked about so many positive things like these benefits, this financial aid, support for education, even protecting retirees.
It's a lot of good stuff.
But what about, the stuff that's not so easy to measure?
What do you mean?
Like respect, dignity.
Oh, right.
Does RA 9442, does it do anything to address discrimination or just like negative attitudes towards persons with disabilities?
It does. And honestly, this is where I think RA 9442 really shines.
How so?
Because it goes beyond just these practical benefits. It's trying to create a society where everyone feels valued,
Yeah, that's important. So how does it go about doing that?
Well, it has a whole section dedicated to protecting persons with disabilities from ridicule and vilification.
So basically saying, hey, words and actions have power. You can't just treat people however you want.
Exactly. Like making fun of someone because of their disability, that's unacceptable.
Even if someone tries to pass it off as a joke.
Especially if it's done publicly in a way that's meant to humiliate or embarrass them.
Yeah, that's just cruel.
And unfortunately it happens, but the law is clear that's not okay.
What about, like, someone mocking how someone moves or talks, like imitating their disability?
Same thing, completely unacceptable. That can really mess with someone's self-esteem, It might seem small to the person doing it, but it can have a big impact.
Yeah, I can see that. So let's say someone sees that happening. Is there anything they can do? Like, does RA 9442 actually have any teeth when it comes to enforcing this?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Okay, good. What kind of consequences are we talking about?
Well, for starters, there are fines.
Okay, how much?
We're talking up to 200,000 pesos.
Whoa. Okay. They're serious about this.
They're trying to be. And if someone keeps violating the law, they could even face imprisonment.
Okay, so it's not just a slap on the wrist.
Nope, they're trying to make it clear that this is important. And for businesses that don't comply, the penalties can be even worse.
Like what?
They could lose their business permits, their licenses, even their franchises.
Wow, okay. That's a big deal, so they're hitting them where it hurts.
It's about sending a message that discrimination won't be tolerated.
I like it. Now, we've talked a lot about making sure these benefits are available, but what about the flip side?
What do you mean?
Like, does the law say anything about people misusing these privileges, trying to take advantage of the system?
That's a good question, and yeah, it does address that.
Okay, good. What does it say?
Basically, if someone tries to abuse the system, they also face penalties.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Exactly. Making sure the benefits are accessible, but also protecting the system from being exploited.
Right, because ultimately it's about creating a system that's fair for everyone.
Exactly. And RA 9442 makes a pretty good case for how to do that.
This has been, I don't know about you, but this deep dive into RA 9442 has been really eye-opening for me.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. We've covered so much. Like, we started with those discounts, those everyday things.
Yeah, the practical stuff.
Right. But then we got into these bigger ideas about what it really means to have a more inclusive Philippines,
Absolutely. It's not just about checking boxes. It's about changing how we think.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so powerful about RA 9442.
How?
Well, it's not just, a list of rules.
Right.
It's like they really tried to tackle these deeper issues.
Like social stigma, discrimination, all of that.
Yeah, all that stuff that's harder to put your finger on,
Yeah.
but makes a huge difference.
Huge. And that's what makes it so exciting, I think. It's like a blueprint for real change.
I like that, a blueprint.
But like any blueprint, you got to actually build the thing.
That's the hard part, right? Taking those ideas and
Yeah.
making them a reality.
Exactly. And that takes effort from everyone, not just, the government or whoever.
So where do we even start? Like, what are some of the things that might get in the way of RA 9442 actually working the way it's supposed to?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is simply awareness.
Awareness.
Yeah, like, you can have the best law in the world, but if people don't know about it, it's not going to do much good, right?
That's true.
Imagine you qualify for these amazing benefits, these discounts, these educational opportunities, but you don't even know they exist.
That's heartbreaking, actually.
It is, and it happens all the time. So we got to make sure people know what their rights are, how to access these benefits.
Yeah, those posters they put up in some places.
Exactly, that kind of stuff. Information campaigns, making sure things are accessible to everyone, even something as simple as translating the information into different languages.
Right, because it's not just about the people who are directly affected, right?
Exactly, it's about everyone understanding and respecting the rights of persons with disabilities.
Okay, so awareness is huge. What else?
Enforcement.
What do you mean?
Well, RA 9442 has those penalties we talked about, right? For people who violate the law.
Yeah, the fines, the possible imprisonment, all that.
Right. But often it's up to individuals to report those violations, to hold people accountable.
So it's really up to all of us to make sure this law actually works.
It is. It's about changing attitudes, challenging those ingrained prejudices, and creating a society where everyone feels valued.
I like how you put that, creating a society where everyone feels valued. That's really what it's all about, isn't it?
It really is. And it starts with each of us.
So, as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Yeah.
What's one thing, just one concrete thing, that you can do in your own life to help create that more inclusive Philippines that RA 9442 is striving for?
It could be something small, like next time you see someone struggling, offer a helping hand.
Or if you hear someone making a hurtful joke, say something.
Exactly. Those little actions might seem insignificant, but they can make a difference.
They can start to chip away at those bigger problems.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into RA 9442.
I agree.
We hope you found it informative.
And empowering.
Yeah, empowering. Until next time, keep those brains engaged, keep those hearts open.
Well said.